Good Thursday morning, everybody, and welcome once again to Day 4 right here on BTL with Frank Scalish, and we have the man right there live from Cleveland. Frank, you got to be feeling good this morning, man. The Browns and the Chiefs, what do you think?
I'm not going to jinx it. I'm a fisherman, so I have a certain amount of stupid stition in me. So I don't want to jinx it. I'm thrilled. I mean, I'm freaking out, actually, to be honest with you. I can't wait for Sunday, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Not that I want the weeks to go blowing by, but I can't wait for Sunday.
That was just an absolute crazy game. I mean, I went in to get a sandwich or something and come back, and it was 28-0.
Dude, we sit down. My wife and I sit down. I crack open a cold one. And the game's just about to get underway. They do the coin toss. And I said, what we need our defense to score some touchdowns, and we need to get some turnovers. Kickoff comes, first play of the game. That snap goes 5 feet over Roethlisberger's head right in the end zone. And I'm like, are you kidding me? And we dive on it for a touchdown. Yeah. So then we go and we kick off again. Right after that, I go, you know what this is like? She goes, what's that? I go, we just got a 7-point spot in the game.
Yeah, so I'm sure everybody will be sitting around. When is it, Saturday or Sunday?
Sunday.
All right.
I think it's a 3 o'clock game.
All right.
Sunday.
All right. Matt, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm sorry that I've lost your bowling things. We were talking about this off air. So yesterday I stuck her out in the studio after the show. What?
I knew it. I knew
after the show.
Yeah.
And I had some business to take care of. Every 6 months or so, I'll answer an email.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fidgety. Like right now, I'm messing around with 2 quarters. I'm just a fidgety individual, apparently.
Yes.
And Mark has bowling grips that are molded to his thumb, and apparently I tried them on and didn't put them back, and now I can't find them.
Tore the studio apart.
But they wouldn't be anywhere. They would be right by your bowling table.
You didn't stick them in your pocket or anything?
No, why would I take your bowling grips?
Dude, you just do things like that, man.
But I apologize.
Surely,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take. All it is it's a molded thing that you put your thumb in. So I was pretending I was bowling in the studio, talking on the phone with them and stuff. But I thought I'd put them all back. But apparently I didn't.
No, you did
that's
not.
Like equivalent to saying some guy messing with your fishing tackle and going, well, it's only a lure that goes like this in the water.
No, I hear you.
Doesn't mean anything to him, but to you, it's important, man.
Yeah.
I thought I had lost a lot of balsa baits, a lot of there's some flat A's in there. I sent you the picture of some of it, Frank.
Oh, yeah.
And about 65 to 70 rogues. And I'm cleaning stuff out, going through stuff, and like wedged behind, here's 3 Plano boxes. Found it all after 3 years. I haven't fished with them the last 3 springs. Just immaculate boxes that I think the last time I had my hands on it was like 2017.
That's like Christmas in January.
Yeah, 100%. I found them. And I found 4 original wiggle warts in there.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got original rogues, original warts, flat A's.
Yep.
That's a good box.
Yeah.
It is.
3 boxes. Have not touched them.
Well, you got to pull those bad boys out because you're coming into season right now.
Yeah. Well, I might have to trade you for some blade baits, Frank, because that is what today is all about, right?
Yes, it is. We're going to talk about blade baits. It's a very fine window for these things, but they are deadly. There's no doubt about it.
Do you like that transition, Jeffries?
Very nice. Except I have a couple.
Transition.
I know, but I have a couple of things to just clean up here before we jump in with Frank. The first thing is I need to let everybody know the banner and the link to earn a couple of free Marshall entries in the Bassmaster Elite Series is now live on basszone.com. Right there on the main page. You'll see it on the upper portion. Go in there. Click the banner, fill out the form, and we will get your entry. And then, I don't know, maybe not next week, but the week after, Matt and I will announce the two people that I'm going to give a couple of Marshall entries to. And then we're going to have the Marshalls on the show on BTL to talk about the marshalling experience and everything that they went through during that entire week. So that's the first thing. The second thing is, dude, I'm getting absolutely obliterated on the instant feedback because they want to know, Matt, why you have the Dallas Cowboys star in the background.
It's not the Dallas Cowboys star.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan, Mark. You didn't realize that? I got a Cowboys.
No.
Yeah, I got a Cowboys hat around here somewhere. CD Lamb, man. CD.
Oh, whatever.
OU.
I don't care.
I mean, when the Ravens
how can
play,
anybody
I
be a
root
Cowboys
for the
fan?
Ravens? When the Cowboys play, I root for because I like Dak too. He's nice. Plus, it's like a living soap opera.
Oh,
There you go.
jeez.
They're
Yeah,
like.
next-
I mean, I like. I like Dak if he's a likable dude. You got CD.
Yeah. You need
and
to
I
take
root
the
for-
star
but,
down.
But a Browns fan first. You knew that, Frank, didn't you?
No, I didn't know
Oh,
that.
since I was a little kid, my dad was raised in Cleveland.
Oh,
So we're part of the dog pound back in the original Cleveland Browns, where we wear it, and then my dad had the wishbones, and we had like a Cleveland Browns lamp that had like the old football Cleveland Browns guy, like the Bernie Kosar days.
Yeah, so you got some Cleveland blood in you, man.
Yeah. So I mean,
That's good.
I have been, and now obviously I am on the bandwagon again.
Well, you
with
have to be now.
Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, you know they're called the Oklahoma City Browns.
No,
That's what they call them. Oh, yes.
The Oklahoma City Brown. Oh, because of everyone's a fan.
Yeah.
Well, I know they also call them the Baltimore Sooners because the Ravens have 4 Sooners on their starting roster.
Well, see, I can't stand the Ravens, but I got to be honest, their logo's badass. I love their logo.
Yeah.
It is a cool logo.
Yeah.
All right.
Reverted back to football.
All right, Frank, before we get into bait school, I want to ask you this because it is January, and Matt, I don't know, we didn't talk about this on the show this week, but Sam Rayburn is on fire. We did talk about the 40-pound limit that the guy caught. Did you see what Bass Champs did at Sam Rayburn this past weekend?
Silly.
It was insane. There was an 11:34 caught. It was just crazy, the weights that are coming out in Sam Rayburn once again in January. Over your years being on tour, what's been your experience with Sam Rayburn?
Unfortunately, we've always tried to get there right around the spawn, and a lot of times it's post-spawn when we get there, and it's been marginal. I mean, I've had good days on Rayburn, but I've never blasted them. I really wanted to get in there like right around February when you can get football jigs going offshore and catch some slobs. Ben Metsubu is a good friend of mine, and I watched some stuff he did, and man, they were ripping them on football jigs deep offshore in February.
You might have gone a little overboard, Mark. I mean, yeah, they caught. It took 15-12 to get a check.
Don't look at that. Look at the top of the leaderboard.
That's not that impressive to me. There were only 5 bags over 20.
Yeah, see,
out of everybody in a team tournament in a Bass Champs, that's freaking tough.
Yeah,
5 bags over 20, and it took 26, 24, 21, 20, 20, and then 19. I mean, it's not bad. It's good.
It's early January, though, Matt. Early January.
It's Sam Rayburn, Mark.
What was it? How were they catching them? Do you know?
No. Typically, you're going to be offshore, dragging something, a spoon, a big plug. Right now, is they always catch them on a big plug. There were a lot of guys that had less than 12 pounds. I mean, I'm already down to. Well, they probably do that. You get a chance. Holy cow! There were a ton of guys that did not catch anything.
Yeah, but
they don't weigh them in.
Yeah, there's. I mean,
but here's what happens too. In the cold weather months, especially up north, the fish don't occupy all the water column. They shrink their habitat range down. So if you're not on them, you're not on them. But
I will say
you're hammering them.
Oh, this guy's from They're both from Cleveland, Texas. How about that? They had a 1344.
Yeah.
There
you go. 1344 for big bass.
That's sweet, dude. Now you said Cleveland, Texas.
Yeah.
My first trip to Lake Oneida, I've never been on Oneida before. First time down there. I'm looking at the map and it says Cleveland, New York. And it was on the southeast side of the lake. I said, well, I'm going to go start over there. Dude, I railed them. I found so many fish over there. I said, this is great. I'm fishing in Cleveland.
Wow. Well, the other thing, too, remember, what just took place in Texas, Matthew?
I don't know.
A big snowstorm. Big cold front.
It did.
Yeah, that doesn't happen that often, dude. Did you see some of the pictures, Frank?
Yeah,
from people trying to fish in the snow and stuff?
Yeah.
You're used to that, aren't you?
I can't say it's new to me. It's not new to me. This is every winter over here, dude.
There was like 4 inches on everybody's deck while they're fishing, and you see the footprints, and it was just a mess.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Been there. It's awesome. I love fishing in the winter. Guys think I'm crazy. There's about 5 of us up here that my buddies actually, and we just can't wait for the winter to come to fish. And then the problem this year was we finally got it. The fishing got red hot on fire, and then boom, the lakes froze. And now we can't get in the water, and it's 40 degrees out, and we can't put a boat in, and the ice isn't thick enough to walk on. So this is like the worst time of year now for me. Because I got to be outside, man. I can't be in the house all the time.
All right, let me ask you this. Matt's not giving me props for the Rayburn thing, but I still think that's really, really good, especially with the cold front coming through and the snow.
Not bad. I'm not saying it's bad.
Yeah,
and it's everything not eye-popping. It's solid as hell.
What was your favorite early, and I mean real early, pre-spawn lake to hit when you were out on tour?
Wow.
That you got dialed in on.
The one that I got
that one in there.
The one that I got dialed in on, believe it or not, was Lewis Smith in Alabama. It wasn't a tour event. I was double dipping, and I was fishing this trail called the Jerry Ryan Trail. Back in the day. Yeah. And I was double dipping on it, and they had at the time they had a slot limit on the lake, and I think it was like you could keep anything under 12 inches. Everything from 12 to 17 had to go back in the lake. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I got on these secondary points, believe it or not, with a Rebel Deep Weir in that 035 crawdad pattern we talked about on a few shows ago. Yeah. And that and a jig. And I was crushing them, dude. I mean, absolutely crushing them. And I weighed in. All my fish were above the slot limit, and I had one about 8 pounds that I lost at the side of the boat. It was unbelievable. And they were all largemouth. I didn't target spotted bass down there at that time until I started fishing there a little more often. Then I started targeting the spots over there because they're much easier to find.
Wow. How long ago was that? You remember?
Dude, it was like right in the beginning of my 2000, 2001, too. Yeah. I just gave you a 3 year span, like it's an hour.
Yeah. All right. I want to go back to the Elite Series now. In the early years, when you think about those first 2-3 years, and the way things started out, going to Amistad, going to Falcon, going to the Delta, it was insane. It was.
Yeah. Go ahead. No. Go.
Well, no. What I want to know is when you were part of that, were you just going, holy crap, man, what am I going to do? I got to go out and catch 30 pounds just to get a check.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, you guys got to understand something. Other than Lake Erie, okay, where I live, our lakes are, 3,000 acres, 4,000 acres. They're so small, it's ridiculous. They're like one of our biggest lakes, inland lakes here, is the size of a creek arm on Rayburn or on Amistad. It's not even like comprehensible. And then so what happened was when I started traveling, my experiences on big lakes I had because I used to go to Lake Norman all the time to fun fish. A good buddy of mine, Troy, got transferred down there. So, back in my youth, him and I were like, yeah, come down. There's like 9 tournaments. I'm like, I'm out when I'd go down there and fish. But it was very I don't want to say scary, but it was scary because I never seen water of that magnitude before and didn't understand. You know what I'm saying? I just didn't understand. Like the pattern on one end of the lake could be completely different than the pattern on the other end of the lake. But going to some of these bodies of water, I have to say Clear Lake was the biggest eye opener for me. Amistad, I kind of knew what to expect, and I've kind of understood the fishery, but Clear Lake freaked me out because I had 20 pounds a day, and they told me that you ain't even going to get on stage with that. I'm like, are you what? That's all I said was what? You know what I mean? And these guys are coming up. How many bags do you need? And they're going 5 bags. I'm like, oh my God, I'm on the wrong lake. I'm doing the wrong stuff, you know? So yeah, it was great though. I miss it. I miss fishing new lakes. My first few seasons in the elites were awesome because I've never seen any of the lakes I've ever fished. You know, I've never fished those lakes that we were going to. And it was such a thrill because to me, the funnest part of fishing is finding them and figuring them out. So when I go to these new lakes, it was like a brand new experience all over again. You know what I'm saying? And it was a lot of fun. It was awesome, actually.
You know, just kind of a side note from the Amistad event. I remember going there the first time. Dude, there was nothing in Del Rio, Texas.
Oh, no,
I mean,
dude.
nothing.
You know how stupid I was. Listen to this crap. I knew nothing about the surrounding area.
Yeah.
Okay, I knew we were on the Mexico border, but I didn't pay attention to the danger stuff that they were talking about. Okay, so here I am. I'm ripping down the lake, and I whip off into this, backwater area, and it turns into like a canyon. And I'm like, oh my God, this is so super cool. So I tie my boat off and I get out. I climb up the canyon wall, and I'm looking for ram horns, and I'm walking around out there like I own the place. Okay. So I find some cool stuff. I pick up some things and I throw them in my boat, and I fish for a while, and I'm ripping down the lake, and there's this flat area now because this lake's crazy. Amistad's crazy. It goes from canyon to like flatland. Yeah. So I'm on this like flatter area, and there's a little island off this thing, and I see a dog on the island. So I'm like, oh man, I got to go save the dog. You know what I mean? So I run over to the island. I beach the boat. I get out. I'm like, come here, puppy, and I idle over to the big landmass, and I beach the boat, and I throw the dog out, and he's kind of like hanging out looking at me. I'm like, oh, this is cool. I'm going to get out and explore. So I go up this little sandbar, and I come over the other side, and it's like this whole tent village on this thing. And what an idiot I am. I mean, they're cooking on these, flat rocks and all this crap. And I'm walking around like, hey, dude, what's, what I mean? It's like, I'm probably that close to getting nailed by the drug cartel. I didn't even know. So, and the other thing is, dude, I went to Mexico. I just walked in, Anyhow, I get back to the room, and I'm talking to some of my friends, and I go, dude, I found the coolest stuff today. And they're going, you did what? You got out of your boat? You walked are you crazy? I go, what do I know, man? I was just an idiot.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unbelievable. It was unbelievable.
All right. That's a great story. I want to go back now and kind of get into what you said earlier about that. Hey, I'd never been down here before. And Matt has talked about his scenario and the hub and spoke system, and where he likes to get into a specific area that he's never been to before and just kind of break that area down as detailed and fish as much as you can by not running all over the place and just focusing on one area. What has been the best tactic for you, and what do you believe is the best tactic when you go to a body of water for the first time?
Well, the first thing I'll do is that wherever we launch the boat, if we're launching in a creek, I'll fish around the creek for a little while to establish some kind of pattern. Once I establish the pattern in the creek, then I start to move on down the lake, and then reestablish the pattern on the main lake. Once I know that I'm catching them consistently, okay, then I start expanding on it. I start running to different sections of the lake, but looking for similar characteristics of my pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I want to do is I want to try to find as much fish as I can, because what I found out when I started fishing these multiple day events, you can't rely on one spot. Now, one spot could make you fat and happy, but you can't bank on it. So you have to have other places to go. So when I run down the lake in the tournament time, for example, if somebody's on an area that I wanted to fish, I just blow right on by and go to the next one. So the thing I try to do is first establish a pattern. The easiest place to do that is in a creek. And for the guys that are up where I live listening, it's not a creek like, you can fish it in 20 minutes. They're the size of Berlin Reservoir. So you go in, you experiment in there, and do it like that. I took a buddy of mine to Smith Lake one time, and we launched in a creek, and he had never fished outside of Ohio before. And I ran into Mike Iconelli. So we sat around and BS for a while. And of course, my buddy was like, oh my God. Oh. So I said, come on, Glenn, we got to go. We got to go fish, man. So I launched the boat, and I go, I'm going to fish in the creek arm for a little while, and then we'll go to the main lake. Well, the creek forked, and we were in one of the forks. So I launched the boat. I ran up the fork, ran around the other side, and sure enough, started catching these spotted bass on these long tapering points. So I'm like, okay, I got to look at some inside swings. I got to look at some bluff stuff. So I run down the creek a little bit. Well, actually run towards the mouth a little bit, and I'm catching them, and I'm catching a lot of them. And I'm like, this is going to be either an easy tournament or I got to find way bigger fish. So the long and short of it is, I said, come on, we'll run out. We'll go to the main lake. He thought we were on the main lake. When I ran out of that little arm we were in and ran to the rest of the creek, he thought we were on the main lake. He goes, where are you going to go? It ends over there. I go, no, dude, the lake goes way down that way. We're just going to go out and around and go down the lake. That's the difference. Fishing in Ohio versus fishing around the country. So by narrowing the pattern down in the creek, as soon as I went to the main lake, I was running down the main lake going, there should be fish there. And I would run over there, stop the boat, catch some fish, move on. And it worked out, it worked out crazy good for me. And it started snowing down there. The next day was snowing like mad, and I probably had 70 or 80 bites. And I switched off the spotted bass to the largemouth the day that it snowed. And it was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. Then I got food poisoning in the tournament, and that was a whole different animal. I said I had the luck of the old Cleveland Browns, the drive, the fumble, the food poisoning.
Wow.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, but it was great. But that's how I do it. I do that everywhere I go. That's new. Everywhere I go, that's new. It's so easy to break the lake down that way.
What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, what I'm saying is there's a difference between a spot and an area. So what he's talking about, the creek, that's my area. So that creek might be my hub. So we're talking about the same things, just in a little bit bigger. Like my deal would be then if I find them in that creek, then that's in my area, that's my hub. But then I'm not going to go look really anywhere else except around that creek. Just different like that.
Yeah.
But it's basically the same thing. I mean, you're taking an area and you're breaking it down and establishing a pattern in an area, and you're going to continue until you find that area, and then that's going to be your hub, and then anything else that's around it but different are your spokes. So same thing.
Yeah, and I always research the coolest thing about what we have at our fingertips today is this computer right here. What I do is I don't research how they were catching them at whatever time of year we're going down there, because that could change depending on how the weather's going, how the season is going. So what I do is I look at weights. The weight is the most important thing. if let's say we're going to be down there in January, okay, and all the weights in January to win tournaments are between 12 and 13 pounds, then I know that I need to be in that 12 to 13 pound range to have a chance to win. And anything I'm doing that's over that is giving me even a better opportunity. So if I go out there and all I'm getting is 9 pounds a day, I know I'm not even in the hunt. So I have to change something I'm doing. And that's what that's how I really go into an event. I look at what I need to have, I look at where I'm at, and then I make my changes from there.
Very nice. Now, Frank, I forgot to tell you this. On last week's show, I asked the fans. No. I asked the fans to send in requests. All right, what do you want Frank to talk about in bait school? And the overwhelming response was they want a rogue show. And it's going to happen, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's going to happen. And guys, you gotta bear with me for a minute, because here I'm trying to keep what we talk about as close to seasonal relevance as I can. I don't want to talk about, top waters today when they're not going to be applicable for 3 months, 4 months.
Right.
So I'm trying to keep the topics relevant to the season that we're in. But what I think I want to do next Thursday, is I think I want to open the show up to questions and do a whole show just based off of you guys, the audience, and let you drive it. You drive the show. I'll answer whatever I can. If I can't answer it, I'll tell you I can't. And let's see where the show goes. And then the following show, I want to bring in the rogues, and I want to do an in-depth show on the rogues. And then we'll transition from there as we get closer to February, March.
All right, very cool. Let's jump into bait school this week. What are we going to talk about?
I want to talk about blade baits, the head and sonar, specifically. Blade baits, where I live, I grew up fishing them, so it was never anything new to me. You had Mark, you mentioned, look, we had a caller call in about Dale Hollow.
Yes.
That actually, it was Billy Westmoreland. He actually made the blade bait famous on that lake, Billy Westmoreland, for smallmouth, actually. So here's the traditional. I'm going to blow through the traditional way of fishing this, because I have a very unique pattern with this bait that I want to talk about, because I think it's grossly overlooked. So here's the strategy. You're generally fishing this bait from, I would say, depending how far north you go, end of October, November, all the way to April. Like on Lake Erie, I'll fish this thing through the beginning parts of April. All the whole entire winter season, till April. So Lake Erie's different than a lot of the impoundments that you're fishing. So I'm not going to get too detailed on Lake Erie, but on the big lake, what I look for is long flats, deep flats. So they'll be 22 to 25 feet deep, go way out into the lake, and then they drop off into the basin of the lake. But that's not the key. The key is the irregularities on those flats. So if I got a long finger that sticks out and then peters down into the basin of the lake, this is where I begin my searches on Lake Erie. Okay. And the smallmouth will hang in that transitional zone, clay to mud, rock to mud, clay to sand, rock to sand. That's where they'll hang out. And usually with the blade bait, I drag and pull it, or I'll do a lift and drop technique on it. If I'm going to fish vertically, I prefer a spoon, but I vertically fish a blade bait a lot too. So I can't say that it's very effective, but I prefer a spoon. But here's the deal on these inland lakes and the Tennessee River chain and stuff like that. Alabama, Tennessee, all those impoundments up there. The keys that I look for, okay, first of all, water temperature is important to me, and I want it under 50 degrees. You can catch them in 55-degree water temperature on this thing, no problem, but there's other ways to catch them. I want the water temperature in the 40s. That's what the bell goes off in there. That's when I really start focusing on it. So here's what I do. It's really simple. I go to the creeks, the big creek arms, and I start in the beginning of the creek arm, and I fish all the structure that goes to the main river channel or the basin of that, from the creek arm just out to the main lake area from that creek. Okay. Those fish are now staging over there, and they're going to winter over there. And if the lake has current in it, the current's critical, because then they will definitely winter in the mouths of those creeks. The more current, the more they're going to be in the mouths. The less current, they'll spread out, but they're not going to be far from those areas, because as soon as the water starts warming up, they're going up to their pre-spawn state areas. So they're not going to be a million miles away from that. So that's where I always start looking. 45-degree sloping banks are great, but if there's nothing on them, they're not so great. So what I do is, if I find a steep 45-degree bank, that's the areas that made the float and fly famous, by the way. So I find these 45-degree sloping banks. I look for the irregularity on those sloping banks, and those are my targets. Okay, long tapering points, inside swings where the channel makes a inside cut on something. Those are my target points. So I generally want to fish the bait horizontally. So basically, I'm going to cast it out just like I would a crankbait, and then I'll gradually drag it and pump it and let it fall. Gradually drag it and pump it and let it fall. Now, this is don't play this video yet.
I'm not.
Okay. So that's how I fish it. All right. And most of the time, I'm not doing anything crazy, nothing erratic with the bait. Subtle is everything with this bait. Now, when I'm fishing deep structure like that on Lake Erie, some of these structure lakes, generally I'm 1/2 ounce, 3/4. In fact, not even generally, all the time. And Lake Erie, I never throw anything but a 3/4. I don't even play games with the lighter ones. I want it down on the bottom. I want it doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's the traditional method of fishing this. Okay. And again, as we talk about in every time I open my mouth, bait fish, if I idle out and I see bait at a certain depth, I know where my target is immediately. If I don't, then I got to look. Okay. And so by narrowing it down to transitional places where where they're going to move into spawn. So if you get outside of those areas, you're going to find where they winter, and that's where you're going to be more successful with the blade bait. So now that I really blew through that, so I'm sure you guys are going to have questions, and that's fine. Bring it up. We'll talk about it. But here's what I want to talk about right now. Okay, so you could roll this video right now. And this is where we're going against everything you hear about blade baits. Okay, what I'm doing here is I'm fishing. This is a natural glacier grass lake right here. My boat's in like 20 some feet of water, and I'm fishing. It's almost a vertical grass edge that comes down, and I'm throwing the blade bait. I'm throwing the head and sonar right in the grass, and I'm fishing it out of the grass. But here's the deal. I'm using 10-pound fluorocarbon, and I'm using a 1/4 ounce sonar. Okay. And what I do with the sonar is I take the bass. Well, here, let me go back. The bass are going to stage on the steep banks just like they do on a structure lake, only now the grass is relevant. Okay. So I take this 1/4 ounce sonar, the head and sonar, you can see it right there. And you see it's got 3 holes on the top of it. This is important because the first hole is where I'll put the clip in. If I'm fishing horizontally, I want it in the first hole. The first hole is going to give you a little tighter vibration, okay, and it's going to work better on the pull as you pull the bait, right? The second hole is when I'm going to do a lift and drop technique, or if I'm going to cast it out there, let it hit the bottom, flutter it on the bottom, and then just hop it a little bit just so it bounces like that. The center hole gives it more vibration, all right? And it's kind of, you can fish it vertically, you can yo-yo it. It gives you a little bit more latitude to fish it a couple different ways. Now, the third and last hole really is something that I only use for ice fishing. Gives me a really good pull on a straight up vertical lift. And then I let it go back down and then it pull it back up. That's usually my third hole position. I don't really fish it on the third hole except for vertically, but the center hole gives you, there's a technique we do up here in the wintertime. We slow roll half ouncers on flats, on grass flats, and we slow roll the half ouncer because it pulls really good. And we just creep it and don't stop it. You just creep it and keep it moving. In that technique, I'll generally throw 12 or 14 pound fluoro. And all I'm doing is maintaining a little contact with the debris, the grass, or the rocks on the bottom, but I never stop the bait. I just slow roll it almost like a bladed jig almost. That's how we fish those things up here. But this grass technique is absolutely insane. So here's what I do. If you can get me on here real quick.
Okay.
Here's one of the biggest. This is one of the biggest. Oops, where'd I go?
Hang on.
That's all right. This is one of the biggest tricks of this bait. Okay. I take the hooks off of the bait that it comes with, and I put little tiny O-rings on it. And then I downsize the treble hooks to size 8 or a size 10. The downsizing of the treble hook is insanely important in the grass because it stops it from getting hung up all the time. So when this bait falls down, it'll flutter and it'll land on the grass. And then I just pull the rod tip and it pulls off and then it flutters back down the grass, which is what I was doing in that video. All I was doing is it hit the grass and I would just take the rod tip and just pull it real lightly and walk it down to the next clump of grass, and then it falls on top, and then I shake it off and I let it fall to the next one. And it is absolutely deadly, and you would be amazed at the kind of grass you can get that bait through. It's a very overlooked technique because nobody wants to take a hunk of metal and chuck it in the grass.
Hydrilla?
But it works.
Hydrilla, milfoil, eelgrass, what are we?
Typically up here, milfoil and eelgrass. I mean, milfoil and coontail.
Oh, okay.
Typically up here.
But it'd work even better in hydrilla because it's a little stiffer, a little crispier.
Oh, yeah. The hydrilla would be crazy because it's nice and crispy. And if it gets stuck, you can just blow it right through the bait and keep on fishing. But this is a technique that, like in the wintertime, okay, I use the Flash Mob Junior, but the Flash Mob Junior bite up here, once you get below 40 degrees, 37-ish, the Flash Mob starts to wane a little bit. So then we go to jerk baits and the bladed baits. So if you ever see me out here fishing, you see a Flash Mob, you see a head and sonar, and you see a jerk bait on my rod. That's how I fish the entire winter, all the way till I can't put another boat in the water. But this grass technique, I picked up on it, and I've been fishing it like that for about 7 or 8 years up here, and the amount of bass that I catch doing that is it's insane. I mean, it's absolutely insane. And here's the good part about the 1/4 ounce head and sonar, because I ice fish with that a lot too. I catch crappies, walleye, perch. I catch everything that swims on that thing in the wintertime. So it's really a fun bait to fish, especially when I'm out for kicks. Now I don't, no tournaments in the winter. So for kicks, I'm out there fishing. So I can get food for the table and catch bass and have a great day. And you're just slaughtering fish all day long. It's unbelievable.
All right, here's some questions real quick on this subject. Let me throw this one up here. Clay wants to know, ever tried trebles or feathered trebles or adding small willow leaves?
I know, I'm going to be honest with you. No, I don't. I like the blade bait. Adding a willow leaf to a blade bait is like just adding more flash to a spinner bait. The blade baits, in my opinion, now I know guys that add blades on them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But in my opinion, it's the subtlety of the blade bait that makes it so effective in cold water. Now, if the water was warmer, like say 56, 57 degrees, yeah, I might do that and fish it aggressively. But at that point, there could be a better bait you could throw to, help maximize your efficiency.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Ever use braid instead of the split rings to connect the trebles?
No, never. No, in my world, that bothers me.
That's a hard no.
Yeah, in my world, that bothers me. I fly fish a ton, and we have this fly called an intruder. And what I do is I tie a loop of braid on the back of the hook shank, tie my fly on the hook shank, okay? And then I cut the hook off, but before I did that, I tied a loop of braid on there, and then I'll do a loop connect to a small hook on my fly, and that's the only time I put a hook on braid. That scares me to death, dude.
All right, next one. What rod length and action?
That's a great question. What I'm using is about I use a Powell rod. It's a 725 is what I'm using for that technique. Basically, it's a 7'2" medium heavy, but it's got a nice soft tip because it's an extra fast tip on it. The tip does all the work when you're fishing this technique, but you need a little bit of backbone in that rod. You can't have some parabolic whippy thing like you would throw for crankbaits. It's not going to work. I want a little stiffer rod, but I want a soft tip on it. So by going extra fast, you're taking care of that. So that's pretty much how I fish it. Now on Lake Erie, I might use my 7.5 footer because I'm launching a 3/4 ounce or a mile away and then working it back to the boat. So on the big lake, I'll use that. But any other lakes I fish, I'm usually going to the 725 or the 755, which is 7'5", 7'5" or 7'2".
Yeah. All right. Over on the Bass Zone, Dave wants to know why a blade bait instead of a tailspin.
Like I said, it's just my personal preference. I've caught a lot of fish on the old tail spinners. I haven't thrown the new ones much, but on the old ones, I've caught a lot of fish on them. But I really like the performance of the blade bait because I think it's a little more versatile.
All right. And then if you ever fish a tournament using this bait, is it still functional with the hooks bent to where you don't catch the fish during practice?
Yeah, it's very functional that way, but you have to leave the hooks on the bait. You can't cut them. You can't cut the points off the hooks because it'll change the bait action. Just roll them over right into the shank of the hook and you'll be fine. But for the most part, when I'm practicing with these baits, I want to catch one or two of them because I got to make sure that I'm A, in the right size, and B, in the right species. Because if you get around hybrids or stripers, you're going to plow them on this thing. So you got to make sure you're in the right species.
All right. You want me to roll the video? Keep going?
Yeah, do what you got to do, man. I'm here. I'm here with you guys.
All right. Let's see here. So that's a good shot of the bait right there.
Yeah, that's perfect. So basically, this is actually the end of the video. I'm going to chuck this thing back. I just wanted you to see that I'm fishing a grass lake here. The main thing was this technique, because this doesn't go with what people associate with bladed baits. So, this is how versatile these things can be. If you use your head, you can really figure out ways to fish it. And remember this, guys. It's real subtle fishing. Like if I'm doing a lift and drop, I'm slowly rising it and I'm following it down. I'm not following it down on a tight line. You want it to fall on a slack line, but it's a very controlled fall because when they hit it on the drop, you could see the line jump before you ever feel them. And so that's what I'm doing. And when I say I'm fishing size 8s and size 10s on that 1/4 ounce, don't freak out, dude. I've landed 14-pound steelhead on hooks way smaller than that. You're not going to lose them. Those hooks go in that fish and they stay put. You won't lose the fish doing that. As long as the rest of your setup is, set correctly, you're not going to lose any fish. And in the winter time, they pull good. They don't jump. So you don't have to worry about that. You just take your time, get them to the boat and grab them and you got them.
Why are blade baits the only bait where they've got the freaking treble hook on almost all of them that's like welded to the bait without a split ring? Because, I'm assuming you're taking nippers cutting that hook off, adding the split ring, and then putting another treble on. But I mean, it's like that on the Silver Buddy too.
Yeah, right. I mean, I just open that hook up. It's not welded on both sides. I just open the hook up, take it off.
Yeah, why do they do that?
Because that's a good question that I have no answer to, because I wouldn't do it that way.
I mean, is that like an old school? It's supposed to maybe hang up less when you can put a bigger hook on it, or I mean, it's always kind of driven me nuts on that on the blade baits.
Probably, I don't know the real reason they do that.
All right.
I don't. I don't want it that way. I want that little tiny O-ring, and I want that hook free. I want my bait to vibrate as best it can with the least amount of movement I can possibly make.
All right. And then, I mean, I'm seeing a bunch of different color and options in this. 99% of the stuff here that I see in Oklahoma is silver. It looked like we're using a gold one up there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's a good thing. Here's why. Okay. I'm so glad you said that, because I got off track. Here's why. Okay. In these grass lakes, the bass will always relate to the last green vegetation as the winter progresses, and the deeper grass will stay green all winter long. Okay. There won't be too much. It'll die back, but it'll be green and vibrant. But here's the deal. Okay. Your forage base that hangs around in this grass is usually baby bluegill, golden shiners, which is a money minnow, dude. Golden shiners are the deal in the wintertime. And then you got baby shad hang out in the grass and baby crappie hang out in the grass. So you've got all the juveniles that live there. So there's a whole ecosystem that is revolving around that last green grass. So that's why I go to the smaller bait first of all, and second of all, it comes through the grass way nicer. But I'm really on a size, and I'm mimicking the bait fish perfectly. I got some new colors coming out in this thing, and this one, I don't know if you're going to be able to see these colors because of the reflective characteristics, but I want to try this. Oh yeah, you can see that.
Yeah.
You see how I got a little blue in there and a little gold?
Freaking awesome.
Yeah, this one here is almost an exact, if you've ever caught a little tiny bluegill in the wintertime, they're like purple, blue iridescent, little bit of gold on them. And this is almost an exact representation of that right here. This is an awesome color. And then I've got, this is a good smallmouth color for me. I like fire tiger and silver. I do fire tiger. Here's what I fish on Lake Erie. I fish fire tiger, I fish silver, and I fish gold. And here's the new one. This is like a lime and chartreuse and white. This is another good smallmouth color. And oh, by the way, spotted bass too. This is another good color. So I got these colors out for for bass. And then here's another neat one. This is like, it's silver. It's just silver with a chartreuse head and some black bars on it. If you've ever seen perch in the winter, this is almost exactly what they look like.
Wow.
In the wintertime. So so that's it. And then I made, because I ice fish a lot, so I wanted some colors for ice fishing too, for walleyes and crappies. So I made this dude here. It's got a pink back, silver scales, a chartreuse nose, and chrome belly. And then I did this one here, and this one I didn't put hooks on this one, but this is, I did some crappie and walleye kind of stuff for ice fishing, which is phenomenal. Because I have to think about us ice guys too. I can't just do open water stuff.
Here's my deal with blade bait. So I've got them, and I freaking hate fishing them because I'll get it down there and I'll go, and I'll let it fall, and I'll go, and then it'll just be like, and it's freaking hung up around the front hook. It's hung up around the back hook. It does it every single cast. It doesn't matter what side of the hook I have on it, and it's annoying as hell.
Because you're probably throwing a blade bait with one hole in it, one hole for your clip, so you don't have an adjustment. That's the beauty part about the heading is I got that adjustment. So I know if I'm casting and working it towards me, I go to the first hole. If I'm a little more on top of it or I want to slow roll it, I go to the second hole.
But
And
how often are you tangling it up yours? Like every third cast? Every fifth cast? Like how often is it getting tangled up in the hooks?
Barely.
Like in a course of the day, I'm trying to figure out how much ice.
It's going to happen. Here's when it happens. Lift and drop. Okay. Sometimes if you lift it up and let it go down and it spirals and it hooks your line, it's going to hang up. Okay. That's just you're too vertical on it.
So I'm working too aggressively.
Yeah. It's very subtle.
I'm popping it and letting it fall as opposed to slowly dragging it and then controlled fall.
Correct. And here, the best technique is actually dragging it like a football jig. You just drag it and then stop it.
Just enough to feel the rod tip go do do do.
Right.
Like, but you're not going. I mean, okay, this is going to sound weird. There's a difference between and.
Right. I just want that bait going. I'm going to do noises too.
Do the noises.
I just want that bait to go do 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 do, and then I kill it. Do 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 do, and kill it. If you're getting a brrr, you're way too aggressive for the time of year you're fishing it.
That's been my problem. Yeah,
you're way too aggressive, dude. It takes nothing. I learned that ice fishing. Here's a cool thing. Listen, this is going to sound totally stupid, but I learned a lot about bass by ice fishing for them. So I got my locator out. I see the bass. I see my bait. I drop my sonar down on top of them. And I go, bloop, 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 you know what I mean? And they don't do nothing. Then I stop it and I leave it there. Well, what happens is underwater, that bait just slowly turns because you're vertical on it. So it's
literally just a hunk of metal sitting in the water column moving with whatever underwater current there is.
Right. It doesn't do anything. But when you stop it, because you have line twist, you have all kinds of stuff. So when you stop it, that bait just turns like that. Very subtly turns. And then all of a sudden that bass comes up and smokes it.
So it turns into a jerk bait.
Well, yeah, kind of.
Suspending jerk bait. I mean, that's the same thing when a fish hits a jerk bait, when it's suspended with that angle and it down there. I mean,
right. And so I learned that in that water temperature range, a hard aggression is not always the best method. The more subtle it is, I've had them take it right off the bottom too, where it hits the bottom and makes a poof little cloud of dust, and then you just shake it and you lift it and move it, and it's just quivering down there and it's on the bottom. They come and pick it up. So, but this is all the stuff I learned ice fishing. So I translate it into cold weather periods when I'm fishing for bass, and it works. I mean, it's just, you're just dealing with the nature of the animal, what he's feeding on. A lot of times shad and stuff, they die and they float down, they hit the bottom, and then they just, they do their little thing and they're dying and they're not hardly moving at all. And the fish come down and boom. I mean, even ice fishing with walleye, I'll let that bait slam into the bottom and just leave it there and just shake it. And all it does is quiver on the bottom. And then all of a sudden, boom, and you got a big giant walleye.
So let me, okay, go ahead.
No,
I was just going to say, let me clarify this. So I put, in Oklahoma, learning this, I put the blade bait in the same category as a slab jigging spoon, the 1/2 ounce, 3/4 slab spoon.
Correct.
But that being said, I feel like that slab spoon, and maybe because a lot of people, or me, is working the blade bait more aggressively, the slab spoon is better. I mean, and I know you can fish it subtly too, but it's better on a quick snap and then a free fall drop.
Absolutely.
It seems like it's more of a reaction bite, which I would put the blade bait in a strict reaction bite before this day 4 with you. The way you're describing it, it's a feeding bite. It's not a, there it is, boom, I ate it and I don't know what I did. It's a, oh, something caught my attention. It's a dying shad. It's a dying baby crappie. It's a perch that something's messed up with it, and they're coming over, they're examining it, and then they're sucking it in. It's not a bam, and chaos. It's a feeding bite.
It's a feeding bite. There's time there. It's an absolute feeding bite. If I'm vertical fishing, I'm spooning. I'll throw the CC spoon, or I'll throw War Eagle spoon, and I'm on top of them right over their heads, and I'm spooning it. And I double pump my spoon. I'll pull it and then pull it again, and then I'll let it go down, and I follow it down. So I got a bow in my line, and I follow the bow down. Okay, and I let that spoon, if I'm fishing structure, I let that spoon crash into the bottom, and then I wait a second, and then I do it again. And 99% of my bites come as it's falling.
Yep.
Which is why I control I control it. I make sure I got a bow in my line, and I'm following that bait down. That's the key. But with the blade bait, it's so subtle. In my opinion, it's a finesse technique. Okay. Now in April, when I smallmouth fish with it on Lake Erie in April, I'm throwing it on 17-pound fluoro. I'm throwing a 3/4 ounce, sometimes a half, mostly a 3/4 ounce. Okay. And there's no playing around. I get on where they concentrate on the pre-spawn areas. I fire that thing out there, slam, it hits the bottom, and I go boom, 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 and they smolder it. Now that's a different thing. Now you've got warming water temperatures. These fish are getting more aggressive, okay? Because you're in the spring. You're not going through the winter with the dropping water temperatures. So that's what you really want to pay attention to, because you fish it differently in the spring than you do in the winter.
All right, there you have it. That's good stuff. Now, several people have asked Frank about a swivel. Is there any application that you can use this with a swivel?
You can. I prefer just the little snap on it.
Okay.
The swivel, to me, it's overkill. I'm not going to get line twist, throwing it on a bait caster, so line twist is not going to be an issue. The only time I'd use a swivel is for line twist, and if I did, I would put it about 18 inches above the lure.
All right, there you have. Now,
what about a sonar versus a gay blade? Because they're the same thing; they're just a little different shape, right?
They're the exact same thing, and in fact, I got gay blades right here. I love the gay blade too. I fish a lot. I'm trying to get it out here. Hold on. I fish a lot of the gay blade for, well, here.
Oh my!
This is what happens when you're like me. I fish a lot of the gay blades for panfish. I love this little bait. It vibrates super, super, super tight, it's really, this bait here is just, it's just sick for crappies and bluegills. I catch bass on it as well. It's a smaller profile than the head and sonar. It's more compact. Here, I'll show you the differences. Oops. Mm-hmm. It's more of a compact body style, where this bait, the head and sonar is longer, and this bait's shorter. So I pulled them out of my blade box. So I fish them both. I really like that gay blade for crappies a lot. Like, it's crazy good.
All right. Several people want to know, what's the best snaps for that, Frank?
Well, when you're fishing the sonar baits, what I like to do is I like to use a thinner wire snap. A thinner wire snap, just a normal clip. The Norman speed clip does not work in these things because the holes in them are too small.
Yeah.
But here, you don't want a lot of hardware on this, because you don't want to hurt the action of the bait at all. So the thin wire snaps are the best, and short snaps, not real long snaps. I just want hardware to a minimum on that blade bait.
All right. I wanted to go back to this shot, and we won't run the video.
Who is that handsome guy?
You look warm. You look like you're staying warm there, Frank.
I got about 30 layers on, dude, and if I could get more, I would.
Still a little chilly. All right. The question is let's say this area has current in it. Okay? How important is current, and is current important in utilizing this technique?
Yeah, the current's important. All lakes will have some current, especially the reservoirs. All reservoirs will have some current. Smallmouth and spotted bass, especially, will be on the upcurrent side if they're aggressively feeding. They'll slide around the structure to the lee side of the structure if they're neutral. So I always try to target the current side, the side that's facing the current first. Now, if you're in a river and the current's ripping, you're talking about a different animal. We're only talking about lakes and reservoirs here, not rivers. So that's what I do. If the reservoir has current in it, like you'll know that Pickwick, Wilson, Wheeler, all those lakes have current. The whole Tennessee River chain has current.
Yeah.
Which is the exact reason that I start looking for those fish in or near the creek mouths, because they can take refuge out of that current.
How underutilized do you think this bait is in the fishing community, both at a tournament level, be it winter tournaments, be it super, super early tournaments in the year, and even for the weekend anglers?
I think it's incredibly overlooked. I don't think it's as much overlooked in the Northeast because it's just an effective tool that we've used forever. I think it gets overlooked as you get farther south. Like here, you can take a half ounce or a 3/4 on Rayburn. They were catching them on offshore structure on Rayburn. You could take it and catch them fish out there just like you would if you were dragging a football jig. They just don't do it down there because they can drag a football jig. But if they threw the blade bait down there, they would catch the fish equally as well on it.
What about
the tail spin?
Yeah. What about rock, Frank? We've talked a lot about grass. Somebody mentioned Texoma.
Rock's where it's mainly fish. Rock is the 95%. Frank's been talking about the 5% deal. Isn't that what you zoom through the first half? You're like, hey, this is how everybody fishes it, but here's what you need. I mean, the rock, like I'm thinking 10 killer, 45-degree banks that have spots, smallmouth and largemouth, clear 8-10-foot visibility. Texoma, Eufaula around the Porum area, Grand Lake below Duck Creek.
The original way to fish this bait is on the rock structure, hard bottom structure. That's when we're talking about the structure fishing aspect. That's what we're actually talking about. When we look for the irregularities on 45-degree sloping banks, what we're looking for is outcroppings or gravel, hard gravel bottom. That's generally what we're doing. This grass pattern that I was talking about is a special pattern that nobody really thinks about, because you would never think about throwing a hunk of metal in a pile of grass. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. 10 killers, good, dude. I mean, I look for the shale shelves over there and drag it off them shale shelves. You'll find some smallmouths in that
And
place.
here's the other thing where it's not talked a lot about. I mean, Frank's talking about the water temps that you throw it in. Like, when was the last time there was a tour event that had water in the 40s?
Yeah, no.
Like, I mean, like the Elite Series don't start. If they start early, it starts down in Florida.
Yeah.
I mean, occasionally you'll hit like an Amistad deal or a Rayburn in January, but for the most part, there's no tour events to blow a blade bait or a jigging spoon for that matter out of the water.
No, there's not. There's not. I mean, ultimately what I would love to see, I'd love to see a tournament in every month of the year, in every season, every condition. I want to see a winter event. Then you're going to see versatile guys. Then you're going to see different guys rise to the top of the food chain here, boys. Because if you could fish in every single seasonal condition, and when I say winter, I don't mean winter in Florida. I mean winter up here, where you're fishing and the water temperature is 37 degrees. And it's freezing out. That's you're going to see some separation in that field at that point, because you're going to have guys that have to be well adversed at wintertime fishing, true wintertime fishing. You're going to see guys that have to do well offshore in the summertime. You'll definitely get a couple pre-spawn events, and you'll definitely have a spawning event. So you have to be so versatile at that point. And that's what I would love to see, because listen, if you predicate every tournament around the spawn, pre-spawn, spawn, and post-spawn, and then you go to the smallmouth fisheries, big deal. I mean, big deal. You're fishing 3 different techniques the whole time. You know what I'm saying? I want to see something where these guys got to go, holy crap, how am I going to catch fish now?
I like it.
Yeah, dude, think about it. You're cracking 200 yards of ice to get out to the open water. Oh, yeah.
That's awesome. All right, somebody on the instant feedback, name not mentioned, says, please ask Frank if he will tell the story about catching smallmouth on these baits and then you swamped your boat.
Oh, my gosh.
What is he talking about?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I know exactly what he's talking about. Back in the day, okay, I was young, naive, and stupid. I had a 16.5-foot champion, okay? And I fished a redman out on Lake Erie. And I had gone out, and I figured this pattern out. All these smallmouth were staging to go into the marinas to spawn, okay? And so I know exactly, gosh almighty. So this obviously someone who knows me. So I had all these fish pegged in these marina mouths, which is exactly what happened at Clear Lake with that swim bait thing. But anyway, so I get in the front of this one marina mouth, and it was every cast I was catching one on a blade bait, on Fire Tiger, 17-pound test line, bait casting equipment. So I'm excited because I'm catching. I could probably catch 100 of them. Okay, so I rig 4 rods. All 4 rods have the same sonar on them. All 4 rods are 17-pound test line. I go out to this marina mouth, and I don't know what I was thinking. I fire out a cast, and boom, I get one, a nice 3-pounder. I crank them to the boat. I flip them in the boat, throw the rod, fish, everything in the bottom of the boat, pick up the next one, fire it out, boom, do the same thing, rod, reel, fish in the boat, boom, I get the 3rd one, flip them in the boat, I turn around, and them other 2 are all tangled in all my stuff. So I'm like, holy smokes, I got to get all these fish undone, and I got to get them, pinned up and put in the live well. So I go through all the rigmarole. Well, what happens is, and what I didn't realize, okay, I'm in a 16.5-foot bass boat. I'm in front of a marina mouth. Basically, I'm in the middle of a shipping lane, which I'm not supposed to be in. I'm fishing dredge spoils. I'm not supposed to be in there. All the boats going out to Lake Erie are going out. They're all going out, and they're big, giant, those big, giant Lake Erie boats, Rodney Dangerfield crap, drop the anchor. So I'm in the bottom of the boat, and I got all these smallmouth in the bottom of my boat. I'm trying to untangle them all. Well, what I don't realize is that as these big boats motor out, I'm far enough out for them to get on plane. Well, they're throwing these big 5-foot walls of water, and they're washing into the back deck of my boat. And I'm not paying attention to it because my back is turned, and I'm trying to deal with the tangled mess I just made for myself. Okay. So all of a sudden, like out of the clear blue, the smallmouth just goes, and I noticed there's water in the bottom of my boat, and the boat is filling up with water, and all these smallmouth are now in the hole in my bass boat swimming around, and I can't catch them because I got a foot of water in there. Well, what happened was something must have got, like a fishing line or a plastic worm must have got in my bilge, stopped my bilge from working. All these boats are going out, swamping the boat. Well, the more water that came in the boat, pretty soon the boat gunnels are even with the water, and the water's rolling through my boat, and I got smallmouth in the bottom of my boat that I can't get. They're swimming all over the place, and I can't catch them. So I get the boat, I get my anchor, I throw my anchor out, tie a jug to the anchor, throw it out there. So I know exactly where I got to go back to. I get the boat to the shoreline, I beach the boat, and I'm in the back of the boat, compartment up, trying to get the things to work. The bilge pumps work. Anyhow, the dumbest, stupidest thing I ever did in my life was that I literally, I couldn't even put the boat on plane going back to the weigh-in. And I caught, me and my partner probably caught 80 of them that day. Like,
holy
nonstop.
crap.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. It was absolutely, and I didn't even win the tournament. That's the thing that really pisses me off. I didn't even win the tournament. A guy that I know real well, he won it doing exactly the same thing, but he found a very small, non-obtrusive marina mouth, and every one he caught was over 4 pounds. And I was only catching 3-pounders doing it. But
wow.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy. It was crazy.
I can't imagine seeing the smallmouth swimming around in a foot of water in your boat.
Oh, yeah, and I was soaked, dude, because I'm down there. I'm like taking a bubble bath with these fish. It was unbelievable. I said, man, we're never going to get back. I can't. And I was young. I mean, I was young and stupid. I didn't understand that you can't really run your bass boat with, 300 gallons of water in it across Lake Erie. And so, yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy.
Wow. All right. Several people have asked, and you might want to throw it up on the screen. I'm going to pull up the shot again on, let's see here. That's not it. That's it. The base that you had, the colors, and they want to know where they can get those.
Okay. Everything you see, you can always, lurenet.com has tons of lure brands on it. So lurenet.com, you can find these. That's the lime chartreuse and white one. It's you guys, it's going to be hard to see some of the reflective characteristics with the computer screen.
Yeah, it's coming through pretty good.
That's that purpley gold.
Yeah, that looks really good.
This is one of my favorites right here. And then of course this is more for crappies and walleyes.
Yeah.
That's really sweet. This is another one of my favorites right here. It's just chrome with the chartreuse head and the perch bars on it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
so,
they're really good, man. But yeah, you can, anytime we talk about baits and stuff, you guys can go to lurenet.com and go browse through there. You'll find all kinds of stuff on there. I don't know how many brands are represented on that site, but it's a ton.
I don't see the fancy colors on here though.
Yeah, they might not be out yet, but they will be very shortly.
All right, because the Sonar's got the gold, the Fire Tiger, the
and I love
Shad thing with the red head.
Yeah, and I love their Fire Tiger too because it's a matte finish. I really like that matte finish in that bait.
When was the last time someone in a tournament was throwing a Fire Tiger that you guys can remember? In anything.
6A Bomber, me.
In a professional bass tournament where it was they were crushing that Fire Tiger.
Yeah, that 6A Bomber and Fire Tiger's an amazing bait, dude. I catch everything on it, smallies, largemouth, and spots on it. And I was actually on Norman throwing it. And here's the cool thing about Fire Tiger. It's a very hot fluorescent type bait, but it works in clear water too, which I don't understand because it defies it defies everything we're taught.
Yeah.
But it does, dude. It is a clear water, smallmouth catching machine.
Even in lakes that don't have yellow perch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I always thought growing up, we would take it up to Canada. You'd be like, oh, you make it look like perch. But,
right. I mean, yeah.
But no, exactly. I mean, it worked in Central Illinois when I was growing up. It worked down. I love throwing a wiggle wart in Fire Tiger.
Yeah, dude, Fire Tiger, great color. It's a
but I don't. I mean, underutilized. I could go through and I don't have probably 5 Fire Tiger. They're all flat A's.
Yeah, the flat A and the 6A are really kind of what made that color famous.
And I got them from Jeffrey.
That's right.
I got to come and scour through some of your stuff, dude. I saw those pictures you sent me. I saw some gold in there. I might have to. Hey, Mark, I'll pull a mat. I'll I'll go fumble through his stuff, and then he'll call me up and go, "Hey, did you see all my fire tiger flat A's?" Now, what are you talking about, man? All I was playing with was this little O-ring.
Yeah. I don't know if you remember this one, Frank, and I've talked about it on BTL before, but when they had the signature series, Mark Davis had a signature series.
Yeah.
Mark Menendez. I mean, there were a bunch of guys. This is back in the 90s. And Mark Davis had a flat A fire tiger that had a little gold flake in it.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable how great that bait was. And me and a guy that I used to fish with a long time ago, used to fish team tournaments with even before Pat, we would have a contest on who could find those baits across the country. And this is way before you could go online, you could go to eBay or whatever and all this stuff. And we would scour places trying to find these flat A Mark Davis crankbaits that were fire tiger with a little gold in it. Well, the first time that Matt looked at that bait, he looked at it and he goes, "Yeah, that doesn't catch fish."
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did.
I did not.
What is that,
dude,
man? There's no way that catches fish. It's
man.
that old school thing that a lot of new people, they're all about the new techniques and the new ways and everything, which is what I want to end with, Frank. Do you think that we are at a stage now where there's so much history in this game that there might quite possibly be techniques that have been successful in the 70s, 80s, and 90s that are being overlooked in today's game because it being all about electronics, being all about the finesse techniques and everything else, that there is a plethora of lures and techniques that are out there that are being overlooked because of so much focus on technology? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think with the development of new techniques and stuff, it's basically predicated because our electronics are better. I mean, drop shotting became mainstay because we could now see them on our locator. We could see the lure go down on our locator. There's a lot of techniques that are developed around your electronics. Okay. But if you had to take all the electronics off of a guy's boat, all right, and I'm not Randy blackhotting us. If you were to take, because I like the dude, he's crazy. But if you were to take all the electronics off your boat and say, you got to go fish with no electronics, right? Here's what you'll see. You'll see a 6A bomber tied on. You'll see a spinnerbait tied on, and you'll see a buzzbait tied on. And maybe a jig or something to flip and pitch with, right? Mm-hmm. And the guys will go right to the bank. The first thing they'll do is go, there's a rocky bank. Get the crankbait out, 6A the crap out of it. Oh my gosh, there's this. Pick up the buzzbait. You know what I mean? They're going to do the techniques that back then were new techniques because, hey, look, all we had were flashers, okay? Showed you a bottom depth. Most of the guys fished the bank. A lot of these old techniques came because of how they were fishing. That's why we have new techniques now, because we're fishing much differently. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the answer to your question is, yeah. I mean, if you were completely blinded and you had nothing to go on, you can literally tie on a handful of the old baits and go down the bank and go fishing, and you'll probably catch them.
All right. Matt, I'm telling you right now, our little striper excursion that we do every year at Texoma, we got to get some of those before we go down there. You know, they look very cool for stripers. Oh yeah, Frank.
Dude. They'll choke on them, dude. You will not be throwing them after a minute, because when you got to get those, when you get a good striper on and you got to get all those hooks out of that thing, you'll be like, nah, I think we're just gonna go with a single hook swim bait here.
I can't wait for that. Definitely going to have to get some of those. All right, Matt, anything else to wrap things up?
No, I learned a lot. I've been fishing a blade bait completely wrong.
Well, it's not wrong. It's just...
Oh, no, it's wrong. Because I haven't caught crap on it.
Well, now you know why.
Wrong. It's wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, I love a jigging spoon. I love a tail spinner. I've got the blade baits.
Yeah, you
I've
just
been
got.
fishing it wrong.
Well, you'll see, dude. You'll see. I'm not kidding you. How close are you to what lake did you say again? Texoma, not Texoma.
10 killer.
10 killer.
10 killer, 40, about an hour.
Yeah, you got to go to 10 killer with the blade bait, dude.
Yeah, it'll 100% work.
Oh, you'll be.
Yeah, just how did it? What was the cake? Do.
Yep.
Not drr, and not do. Just do.
Yeah, just feel the rod tip just going net,
and just net, and then bottom.
Yeah, just like you're fishing a football jig.
And
maybe.
Don't,
yeah. Oh yeah. All of a sudden you'll go to
5 and 6 pound smallmouth every cast.
Dude, you'll just go to pull it and there'll be something there pulling back.
Yeah.
You won't even. Sometimes you don't even know they got it. Sometimes they crush it, but most of the time it'll all of a sudden it's just there.
Mm-hmm. Dude, that would work on your super secret magic bank, Mark. That you only fish on 10 killer, and when they don't bite, you go back down it. And then when they don't bite, you go back down it. And then you say, I'm going to go down it one more time, and if they don't bite, I'm leaving.
Yeah, I finally kicked his ass, Frank, and he still can't get over it.
On one bank.
Well, on one bank, seriously.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because listen, I fished a tournament a couple of years ago with a friend of mine that used to fish the elites. We fished a team trail, and this dude caught 23 pounds out of one blowdown. Okay, literally one blowdown. He caught 23 pounds out of it. Well, me and Paul came in with like 26 pounds, so the guy was pissed. But he caught it on one. He caught it on one blowdown. And if he would have won, I would have high-fived him because that's pretty awesome.
What I didn't know was that Christy had done a Facebook Live 2 days before, and he was doing the same thing Jeffries did. So Jeffries knew how to go catch him, and I didn't watch it. So I went and flipped bushes like a real man. And Jeffries just went and copied what Jason Christie did.
That is not true. It was not the same area.
Christie, and I'm sure he called Ed Barton. And I'm sure he freaking called Mark Tyler.
No, jeez. No,
hey, isn't that what you young guys today call research?
Yeah. Hey, I'm 1-8, Frank. 1-8.
No, 1-7. You were 0-7. Now you're.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Now I'm 1-7. That's right.
Hey, Mark, you got to live for the one, man.
The worst one was when he had 24 pounds on Arbuckle, and I caught an 11 and a 7.
Oh my gosh!
And he wouldn't even weigh his fish. He just got back to the ramp and just started chucking 5-pounders out of the boat, being like, "I can't believe this crap," because he thought he freaking had me. And middle of the day, I call it. I'm like, "Dude, I don't know how big this is. I dropped the net in the water. I broke my rod stepping back on it. This thing's like a 13-pounder." And he's like, "Shut up! I'm on a fish." And I'm like, "No, I'm serious. I need you to come take a picture." And he was I've never seen a man so crushed at another man's success.
I think the proper word is deflated.
Dude, I had 24 pounds. I had freaking smashed him that day.
And I freaking had caught a big one, and it wasn't going that good. And I roll across this Christmas tree, and I just see this blimp. And I'm like, screw the tournament. I'm here the rest of the day. So I didn't have poles, so I drift up against the bank. I drop an anchor out. I see the fish. I'm like, I re-spool line. Like, that's how excited I was. It takes me an hour and a half, and the sucker eats it.
That is outstanding.
Wow. Yeah.
Remember that other one that I beat you at the last minute on a freaking spook fish over 40 foot of water on the tough tank? And we had gone all day and hadn't caught crap. And I passed Jeffries on this deep bluff bank, and all of a sudden, kaboom! Jeffries just chucks his rod at the bottom of the boat.
That's the kind of stuff that happens, Frank.
Yeah, I mean that's when you know you should just sit down and eat a sandwich.
Yeah.
That's
what
good
gave me the
stuff.
confidence to spend $35,000 fishing the opens. My domination over Mark Jeffries in our annual
There you have
spring
it.
tournaments.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine, Matt.
There you have it. All right, folks. Once again, cannot thank Frank enough for making this BTL Day 4 possible. It's great info. And once again, the only reason that we can do this is because of the fine folks at LureNet. So make sure you check out what they have going on. I know some new stuff is going to show up in the paint shop very soon, right, Frank?
Yes, it is.
So
I can't tell you the exact date, though.
Yeah,
Not
can't wait
yet.
for that. All right, here's the other thing. Next week, Frank teed it up. I know there's a lot of questions on the instant feedback, but next week, that's all we're going to do. We're going to take questions from the fans. If you want to ask Frank a question, next week, next Thursday is going to be the day to do that, and we will try to get to as many questions as we can with Frank next Thursday. All right? Hey, man, big week for you, Frank. I don't know if they can beat the Chiefs, but we'll see.
Hey, I got my fingers crossed.
All right?
I'll have my
we'll see.
I'll have my good luck stuff. Don't worry.
All right. Matt, back on Monday with KVD. Great week next week. KVD, Jason Christie, and Carl Jacobson. A jam-packed
You say
next
the
week.
J part.
Do what?
He's Australian, not French.
Oh, well,
You say the J. Jacobson.
I like
It's not
Jacobson.
Jacobson. She's been doing that for the past 10 years.
That's right. That's just how I roll, man. It's like Bradley Waugh. You
It's
know?
Mark from Upper Quebec.
That's right. It's not Bradley Roy. It's Bradley Waugh. It's the hockey in me
my
still.
God.
All right, everybody, have a very, very safe weekend. Make sure you check out lurenet.com. Matt and I are back with KVD on Monday. That's it. We're out of here.